Hello. Sorry, there's always a lag on here. Well, my loves, I want to talk to you today about something that I found this week when I showed up at the park, this weekend, to offer some free coaching to the homeless community here in Portland. And I've been going to the parks and spending the day just sitting outside. I have a big sign over here and just sitting at my table, offering some mental and emotional support to the community. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so for any of you that are looking for some support, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to offer this to you as well, and answer any questions you have and kind of help you guys see a little bit of what might be going on with you as far as these emotional ruts that you're stuck in and why they're so hard to shake. And so I'm also obviously going to be teaching this series coming up. So if you want any information on that, you can message me and I'll get you the details there too. But more than anything, I really just want to help people see some things that they're not seeing. And so I came down here and been hanging out at the park. And of course, I've gotten all kinds of different people coming by besides just the homeless population. And what I found is that really they all have the same thing in common, right? Every person that has come up and sat in this chair and talked with me, it's over and over, it's always the same thing. And I just, what I find is that it's the core of why we struggle with boundaries, resentment, shame, anxiety, all these pain points that we have. And if we could just figure this one thing out, it could literally just set us free from so much unnecessary suffering. With certain things like depression, of course, there can be hormonal imbalances and things like that. Always recommend people working with their therapists and mental health providers. And, some people really do benefit from having, medication to help with some of those things. So there's other layers here and components, but it doesn't dismiss or diminish this one thing that's so powerful, because with everybody that I have talked to that is struggling with depression that has come and sat in the seat, it's like so many of them, doesn't mean that they, shouldn't be on their medication or working with their providers. But over and over again, what I'm seeing is that, there's also all of these limiting beliefs. There's all of these other things. They're also carrying shame, they're also carrying this sense of hopelessness. And when we really dive into it, what I'm finding is so much pain that's being brought up by these belief systems. And so it really, that is my deepest desire for all of you, is to be able to begin to identify what are the things that I can control that are within my power that might actually make a difference for me. When I was really doing my boundary work with my therapist, and she's like, you need to set these boundaries and you need to do this, but I couldn't follow through with it because I had this underlying fear of that I was going to lose something, right? Well, if I set boundaries with my friends or with my partners, they're going to leave. And so there was this fear of like abandonment, or what would happen if I set boundaries. And it's all of this when it comes to resentment, right? A couple of you have been messaging me about that, wanting to learn more about resentment. And the thing with resentment is that it always has this piece to it where we feel powerless, right? We feel like the world should be different and it's not. And so we're kind of fighting, really this battle to get someone else to do something different, to act different, to behave different, right? We're kind of fighting with the world, trying to control the circumstances and the people around us so that our emotions can change. And the thing that everyone that I have talked to has difficulty realizing is that their emotions are not actually created by their circumstances or people around them. Viktor Frankl talked about this in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, right? And his realization of this when he was in the concentration camps. And what he says, for those of you, I'm sure, that know this quote, right, is that between stimulus and response lies our power and our freedom to choose. And so the stimulus is, the thing the person said, the thing the person did, and then the response, right, our emotional response to that. And what he's trying to show us is that we actually have the power and the freedom to choose what that response is going to be. It can totally be anger. It can be shame. We can beat ourselves up. It can be fear. It could be self-doubt. Those are all options. But what many people don't realize is they think that it's their only option, that, X equals Z. Like, this happened, therefore it has to be this. And what all these people aren't seeing that has been so cool to watch is to see them be able to realize, like, oh my God, there literally could be 15 different responses. We're so focused on this one truth, on this one thing, right? I use the example oftentimes of like this big boulder, and we're shining a light on the boulder, on that one thing that we're believing and thinking, that one perspective that we have. And we're so committed to that one perspective, that one story that feels really true. And maybe it even is. But sometimes just because something's true doesn't mean it's serving us. And so because we're shining the light and that's all we can see, that light is also casting a shadow, right? So imagine a shadow behind that boulder. And there's all this other truth that's lying there, that's available to us, that we literally can't even see because we're only seeing this one. I use the example all the time of when I was struggling with drinking and I was, living in my car, and I had, this truth, this belief that the whole world was telling me that I was an alcoholic, that I was worthless, that I was a drunk, right? Were those things true? Maybe that was true. If I looked around at the evidence of my life, that's what would seem true. But when I began to look at other possibilities, what I began to notice was that I didn't have to believe that about myself, even if everyone else told me it was true. Because as long as I was believing that, that's where I was living from, and that's what I was creating more of. But when I was able to let go of that belief and believe something different, my life began to change. I began to believe this is not who I really am, right? I began to believe that I had like a contribution to make, that I was not that person, that I was not an alcoholic, even though I was drinking every day. That seems like it's a lie, right? That they're in contradiction with each other. But by believing the thing, I made it true in my life. And so I just kind of wanted to share that with you. It's been like I said, kind of fun to sit here and just coach the community, offer people free support, and again, that's available to you as well. And I just thought I would share some of these stories with you, right? Like, this one of the examples that I was going to give you is, this what do they call them, the guys that go around with the survey and they're trying to get signatures, right? And this kid, he comes up and sits in my chair and he's like, yeah, I'm having, I want some emotional freedom, and I'm really feeling a lot of self-doubt and just really down on myself. When we started talking about it and what we uncovered, he's like, when I am getting ready to go up and talk to somebody to get a signature, I just experience all this negative emotion, right? I feel all this doubt, all this self-doubt, and I can't seem to shake it, right? And what we uncovered was like, what he was believing in those moments when he was about to walk up to somebody is that it's going to be a bad interaction, right? And he was living in the fear and the doubt of that. And when he's living in that and thinking that, right, he starts putting himself down. He starts thinking about all the bad interactions he's had in the past, right? Closing himself off, not thinking about the positive aspects of himself, not thinking about all the good interactions, not thinking about the times that it's gone well, right? And what he's doing is he's creating a bad interaction with himself, right? And he's missing the opportunity to create positive interactions. He's missing the opportunity that he has the power to create positive interactions with people. Even if someone responds angry, right? He has the power to respond with love, with respect, right? He has the power to create within himself a positive response to any situation. But he's just believing it's going to be a negative interaction. There's another woman that came and sat down, and she's talking about the grief and the sadness that she's been carrying, right? And when we started talking about it, what she was doing was giving all her, like, the reason that she thought she was feeling sad, the reason that she thought she was feeling grief is because her sister has become an alcoholic, right? And her brother made this poor decision that became public, and she started talking about all the circumstances in the world for why she was feeling grief. But when we really got down to it and what she was making it all mean and the way she was showing up with all of this is she was thinking things like, my sister threw her life away, right? She's thinking that she's out of control, that she's not the person she used to be. And when she's thinking she's not the person she used to be and she's out of control, and we talked about this, right? And what is she doing? She would go to her room, she would cry, she would shut down. She started losing interest in things in her life that she used to love and enjoy doing because of that grief, right? She said she's emotionally on edge. She's emotionally more reactive and worn out. She's less engaged, less creative, getting stuck on things in her head, replaying things in her head. And what's so interesting is because she's feeling that sadness and that grief, that her sister is out of control, not the person she used to be, the result she's creating in her own life is that she feels emotionally out of control and that she's not being the person she used to be. She's not living her life the way she used to live it, the way she wants to live it. And so these thoughts, these belief systems literally create our lives. That's what creates our emotion, right? Another young man came and sat down with me and said that he was experiencing anxiety. Where's the anxiety coming from? Well, my dad and my mom and all these things. Where it was really coming from when we really dug down to it, I'm like, what are you believing about all of this? What's going on in your brain? What are you thinking? What are you believing about yourself? And what was really driving his anxiety was this belief that he said, I'm afraid, I think that I'm not going to be able to come through for the people that rely on me. Right now, all of that, there was definitely experiences that he had with his dad and growing up and things that people told him that triggered that, right? So the circumstances, it's not that they don't matter. There are triggers in the world that create this for us, but like Viktor Frankl said, between the stimulus and the response lies our power and freedom to choose. And what he didn't realize was that he had believed it. He had chosen to believe that he wasn't going to be able to come through for people. And that was what was creating all his anxiety. Right? Another young woman sat down and she's having her first baby, right? Her husband came and sat down and she talked about that she's planning to have a home birth, but her mom says it's unsafe, right? Her mom doesn't want her to have a home birth. So she thinks that this disagreement between the two is causing all this emotion for her, right? And we talked about it as we went through everything that's going on. What really was at the heart when we finally dug down to the heart of it all, right? She's had her thoughts were things like she's just trying to push her beliefs on me. But the one that was creating the pain for her was this thought that she doesn't trust me. She doesn't trust me. And that made her feel unseen, unacknowledged, right? And so then she's shutting down, not avoiding it, right? She started doubting herself, not hearing her own voice, not hearing her own wisdom. And where she ended up was she wasn't trusting herself anymore. And she wasn't trusting her mom, right? She started thinking things like negative beliefs about her mom, thinking that she didn't trust me. But really, when we talked about it, I'm like, what else might be true that you're literally not even seeing? And what she realized through all of this is she's like, she doesn't trust herself, right? She doesn't trust the system, right? She had some bad experiences. She works as an OB/GYN in the hospital, and these are all the things she sees. And so she started to realize, like, maybe there's some other things here that I'm not seeing, but she was so focused on that belief system that she doesn't trust me to make a good decision. And that was creating all this pain for her. And she was not able to see all these other things that might also be true. And so she was just holding on to that one. And we do this with so much emotion, right? We have all these emotions that we carry. There's belief systems under there, right? With everything that's going on with my sister, I get to choose, right? My first response that my brain wants to go to is fear, right? Anxiety, worry, panic. Oh my God, what if I'm going to lose her. I could lose her. This is not going well. Here's all the things that could happen. My brain totally wants to go down that railroad track. Could those things be true? Sure. Do they serve me? No, because that's not how I want to show up in my life. It's not how I want to show up for her. But when I can literally learn to release that emotion and come back to my own power and who I want to be, who do I want to be for her in all of this, right? I want to be calm. I want to be confident. I want to be grounded. I'm okay with letting fear be there, but it's not going to be in the driver's seat. It can kind of be over here because I'm going to feel that. It's okay. But it's not going to be anxiety, worry, frantic, panic. Nope, that's not coming in the car. When those belief systems come up that start creating those thoughts, I'm going to deal with that and let that move along because I know how to release those things. and I know how to find what's really true, what's the most true. And I know how to remember that, you know what, my focus right now is going to be on who do I want to be? What is the emotion that I want to create and that I want to show up from? And those emotions are love, confidence, grounded energy, calm, right? Powerful. Be really easy for me to focus on all the things I can't control, to feel angry, to feel resentful even. Why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening. It's a big one for resentment, right? But I could also choose to come home to myself and be like, you know what? I can create an experience here that is loving, that is present, that is calm, right? Here's the things that I can control. When I focus on that, it shifts my emotional energy. It shifts my emotional energy. And I'm not living over here in this stuff, and I can live in the life that I want to live in, right? It's not about toxic positivity. We can recognize the things that are hard. We can recognize these circumstances. But what we can also recognize is, where does my power truly lie in order to release the things that aren't serving me, in order to create the things that will serve me, right? Where's my power in all of this? And don't disregard that. Stephen Covey says, talks about it like the circle of influence and the circle of control. And he says, when you focus on, or I'm sorry, this circle of concern, right? The things we can't control, other people, circumstances, medical diagnoses, all the stuff in our lives that we want to control. When you put your focus and your energy on that, all you're going to create for yourself is stress, worry, anxiety, fear, resentment. It's going to literally create and build all of that. And the more you focus on it, the more out of control you feel, the more powerless you feel, the more angry you feel. It builds it. He says, when we focus on the circle of concern grows. Our cause for concern grows. Our power is literally diminished. But when we focus on our circle of influence, the things that we can influence, the things that we can control, right? In our relationships, when things are going, are rocky, we might not be able to control the other person, but we can control ourselves. We can control how we show up. And when we focus on that, what's amazing is that our influence and our power in the world then also begins to grow. So anyway, if you guys want to talk about any of this, shoot me a message. I'm offering free coaching sessions right now for everyone. Like I said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're just getting out there in the world and supporting people in whatever it is that they're going through. So if you have any questions, if you're like, I'm not sure about all this, feel free to shoot me a message. We can sit down and talk about it. I'm okay. I'm open to questions. And more than anything, I'm here to support you and to help you work through whatever's going on for you. So shoot me a message and we can set up a time to chat. I love you guys. All right.